It's 27 degrees, it's a Saturday afternoon, I'm indoors, I have a big glass of ice water. I want to talk about Valve's new hardware. So, for those who don't know, this week Valve shocked the industry by revealing a brand new handheld device that they've been creating, it's been rumoured for a while, called the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck is a handheld PC that allows you to play your entire library of Steam games on the go. It's effectively a higher-powered Nintendo Switch created by the people who make Steam. I will say this straight off the bat, I think the Steam Deck does not look nice. It's not a nice-looking console at all. It looks like a Wii U gamepad and a Sega Game Gear had sex, and they should not have had sex. Their creation is not acceptable in God's eyes. It has two analog sticks that are positioned right next to the D-pad and the face buttons, which just looks aesthetically very strange. It has two triggers, it has two bumpers, and it has four customizable buttons that sit towards the bottom of the device, like you find on many high-end Pro controllers for consoles these days. It has a 7-inch screen, which makes it a touch bigger than the Nintendo Switch, and it has two trackpads, similar to the ones that Valve played around with on their Steam controller about 5-6 years ago. This did feel like it came out of nowhere. Valve just dropped the announcement on a Thursday afternoon, I think it was, and then announced that pre-orders were open a day after. And when I first saw this device, I thought to myself, I don't really know who this is for. This isn't the first time, after all, that a company have tried to make a handheld PC. We had the Nvidia Shield, which didn't really take off. We had the Alienware one, which just looks like a horrific version of the Nintendo Switch. I hate the look of that device. But the more I heard people talking about this device, the more I started to realise that actually I think it might be a bit of me. I really hate that I just said that phrase. The device has quite a powerful chipset. It makes for a handheld system that is vastly superior to the Nintendo Switch in terms of raw power. This thing can play Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Control, Death Stranding at a semi-decent graphical fidelity, aiming for 720p resolution, which is the resolution that a screen this size, it's fine. 720p for a 7-inch screen is more than fine. It has a battery life that's pretty comparable to the Nintendo Switch, which is obviously very important for handheld gaming, but best of all, it's pretty reasonably priced for what it is. The base model has 64GB of eMMC storage. I don't really know if that's good or not, but that costs you £349. And then there are two higher level SKUs which have SSDs inside them. They go for £459 for the 256GB model and £569 for the 512GB model. That 512GB model also has a premium anti-glare etched glass. Good for it. I don't know what that means. The price point of this, when you consider the graphical capabilities of it, is really reasonable, especially because this thing is just a PC. It runs a Linux-based operating system. I believe it's the Steam OS, which I've heard very mixed things about. You can dock it, use it as a computer with a monitor, put a keyboard and mouse in there, and you can also install whatever the hell you want on there. It's an open source operating system. Valve have said if you want to wipe it and put Windows on, you can. You can install the Epic Game Store, Xbox Game Pass, Itch. All of these applications, all of these storefronts can be installed on this device if you choose to do so. So once I learned all of this information, once I started to really consider it, once I realized that what Valve were offering me was a handheld device that can play my entire Steam library, all 406 games I think I have on Steam, that completely changed my mind about this device. I knew I had to have one. I've put in a pre-order for the 256GB model, and it's not expected until Q2 2022, but believe me, I've become very accustomed over the course of my life to wait for Valve to do something. So waiting that long, it's not too bad. Buying new hardware is always a risk. Valve have not really had a great track record when it comes to hardware. Apart from the Index, their VR headset, which is hugely successful and is quite often considered to be the best VR headset on the market, they've abandoned a lot of projects over the years. The Steam controller, the Steam Link, I think it was called, that streaming box, Steam Machines. I mean, I really wanted Steam Machines to take off. This was Valve's attempt to break into the console market by effectively packaging together PCs with custom OS on them in a box that you would shove underneath your TV and you would play it in the living room. They never caught the public's imagination. Interestingly, the Steam Deck has absolutely made people lose their minds, including me. And I guess I wanted to make this video today to not only just talk about the Steam Deck in general, because I think it's fascinating when new hardware comes into play, but also, why has this captured the public's imagination? Why have I had more people on my Twitter feed pre-ordering this than I saw people pre-order the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X? And I think it's because Valve have really tapped in to this idea of convenience that is so important to the modern game player. For starters, the Steam Deck could not have been revealed at a more interesting point in time. Before E3, there were rumors that a Switch Pro was going to be announced, a version of the Nintendo Switch that had a faster chipset, had more powerful graphical capabilities, could output at 4K. Basically, there was a lot of rumors flying around that people were really invested in, including myself, that said that Nintendo were planning a mid-cycle refresh of the Nintendo Switch that just made games run a little bit better. The Nintendo Switch has performance problems even in first-party games. I play games like Mario 3D World on the television, and it has a lot of frame drops, which feels ridiculous when that game ran pretty smooth on the Wii U, the console it originally launched for. Even Breath of the Wild, a game that was released for the Switch, with the Switch in mind, has frame drops. So people were expecting Nintendo to release this updated Switch that was better and more capable than the one that everyone had. And as you may know, Nintendo did not reveal this. The rumors were not correct. Nintendo announced a new version of the Nintendo Switch that just had a slightly better screen. From a business perspective, this just makes sense, really, when you think about it. If the Nintendo Switch is still selling by the bucket load, then why would Nintendo introduce new hardware that's more capable into that space? It's selling, why bother? And also, yes, all these games might have some performance issues. If you want to buy games like The Witcher 3 or Doom Eternal, you're buying a vastly scaled back version, full of compromises, but people don't care. Like, I will complain about frame rate problems on the Nintendo Switch. I've been playing through Link's Awakening on the Switch recently, and my god, that game has some of the worst performance drops I've seen in a first-party Nintendo game, maybe since the N64, but I mean, it's a Zelda game that I can play in bed, so I don't really care about those performance issues, and that is why the Switch continues to sell really well, because it's the convenience of portability. The Steam Deck offers the same core thing that people love about the Nintendo Switch, and that's convenience. This device allows you to play your games on the go. And I think that is literally the only reason why I want one. Valve are very much trying to push this system as being capable of running modern day AAA releases, and I don't doubt that it can. There is footage of Jedi Fallen Order, there's footage of Control running on this system, and Death Stranding. They do look scaled back, because of course they are, they're running on a handheld device, but like I mentioned before, the Nintendo Switch has versions of games of that scale and caliber on that system, horrendously scaled back, and people don't give a shit because, yeah, you can play The Witcher 3 on the train. That's great, you know, runs, and that's all people care about. So the fact this system only targets 720p, the fact that it's built on PC architecture, the fact that a lot of these games, because they are just PC games, will allow you to scale their graphics down to get them to work, means that it's kind of the perfect system to allow you to play games of that caliber on the go. One little concern I do have about it is it's built on Linux. Linux does not support games as well as Windows. This has been a problem for a long time. Valve have said they're working very closely with, I think it's Proton, some wrapper, blah blah blah, nerdy dev stuff, I don't really understand it, but they're basically working to make the entire Steam library function efficiently on this hardware. However, I think one thing Valve really need to prioritize to ensure the Steam Deck is a long-term success like the Nintendo Switch is it needs to behave like a console, in the sense that if I download a game, I just want to click on the game, I want to boot the game, and I just want it to work. I don't want to have to go into the settings on my handheld device and tweak resolution. I just want it to load in a configuration. I want it to know that I'm playing on a Steam Deck and just say, yep, this is the settings configuration that makes this game function the best on this device. I think Valve are capable of doing this because Steam already does this when you plug in controllers. If I plug in a Xbox controller and play Dusk, Steam automatically loads in a user curated configuration, I think it is, that maps all the buttons to the controls of that game based on the controller itself. If I plugged in a DualSense, a DualShock 4, a Switch Pro controller, there's a chance that all of those different controllers may have different configurations that are loaded in without me even have to do anything. I just plug the controller in, I boot the game, it just works. That's what I want to see from the Steam Deck. I want to be able to boot up any game, Ghost Runner, Hades. I want them to already have the graphical settings there. And yes, I can tweak them if I want to, but as an average consumer, as someone who has a PC and finds fiddling with it to be the most frustrating part of PC ownership, I almost don't want that replicated on my handheld device. And I think that will be such a win. That will transform this device into just a console that I don't have to worry about with that vast PC library in my hands. And looping back to that point, this thing will have the best launch lineup of any console ever released. The most exciting thing ever in a Nintendo Direct is when Nintendo turn around and say, this game is coming to Switch. This game that you love that's on other platforms is now portable. It's in your hands. And Valve's promise with the Steam Deck is that this massive library of 400 games that I've spent how many years building? Let me just open Steam and find out. I made my Steam account in 2006 when I got a boxed copy of Half-Life 2 for my birthday. That's nearly 15 years I've owned my Steam account, and I have accumulated many games over that time. Let's actually find out how many games I have. I think it is 451 games. I have 451 games on Steam, and Valve are telling me that all 451 of those games will be playable on this device day one. That's wild. I'm just looking through my list of things now that will be playable on this handheld device. Frog Detective, Portable Frog Detective, Dyson Sphere Program, Parkitect, Euro Truck Simulator. These huge PC simulation experiences that just haven't come to console will hopefully work on the Steam Deck. I do have some concerns about how simulation games will work on this thing, because some simulation games are quite resource heavy, which is why we don't see them come over to console that often. And when they do, they're often quite stripped back versions. You know, City Skylines on the PlayStation 4 didn't run amazing. Will City Skylines run well on this device? Part of me thinks maybe not. Serious Sam, Unreal Tournament 2004. Portable Unreal Tournament 2004. How did I not think about that? Portable Quake 3 Arena. You could do LAN parties with your pals if you all had Steam Decks. You could just play boomer shooters all weekend long. Painkiller portable, a Medieval portable, Blood, Civilization, SimCity 4. And you can control these big tycoon management games using the touchpads, because apparently they work really well. Age of Empires 2, Hardspace Shipbreaker, Spin Rhythm XD, all these games that I adore on PC, portable. It's just an incredible thing to offer people, and I just really hope they pull this off. And I think that they might be able to, because it feels like they've really put so much thought into this, and these things sold out instantly. I managed to pre-order mine like an hour and a half after the pre-orders opened, because I was and ahhing about it. Because it's set to arrive in Q2 2022, it gives me like a good 6 months to see what the early adopters think of it. And if they're like, it doesn't work, it's not what they promised, then I can just cancel my order. And to be fair to Valve, I think the way they've handled pre-orders seems pretty good, better than Sony and Microsoft did last year. Pretty much everyone on my Twitter feed, who are mainly games journalists, have pre-ordered one of these. I've never ever seen, like I said at the start of the video, this many people be so excited for new hardware. But of course it's exciting. It's a handheld. Handhelds are always exciting, and there's just no competition in that space. Nintendo have gone unrivaled for like 5 years now. The biggest competition when the Switch came out was their other handheld, the 3DS, a console that was also unrivaled because the Vita was discontinued by Sony. And it's very understandable why Nintendo have gone unrivaled, because the Switch is a fantastic console. In a lot of ways, it has a lot of benefits over the Steam Deck. I don't think the Steam Deck is directly gunning for the same market as the Switch, and the Switch has even some performance benefits over the deck in some areas. You know, the deck will always be 720p even while docked. The Switch is 1080p when docked. Sometimes, really depends on the game. But just competition in that space is fantastic, because handheld consoles rule. Handhelds are really exciting because they're convenient, because they allow you to play games on the go. They're portable, they're social. I love handhelds so much. The Vita is still, I think, my favourite handheld device of all time because it was scrappy and tried too many different things and was more powerful than the 3DS and was trying to be like a hardcore, like, hey, you want to play Uncharted on the bus? Turns out we didn't. Turns out we just wanted to play Bastion and Stardew Valley and Everybody's Golf. You know what kind of reminds me of the Vita? The Steam Deck. This cool, interesting device that's trying to replicate an experience I have somewhere else in a handheld capacity. And you know what? Maybe one of the reasons why I've bought this, even though I have no plans to travel for a very long time still, even though I'm trapped in the house, is, well, because of that, because I'm trapped in the house. I sit here for 8 hours a day, sometimes 6-7 days a week. I sit here, I make videos, I work on my day job during the day, and you know, when I clock off at 6-7 p.m, the last thing I want to do is continue to sit here to play PC games. It feels like a miserable thing to do for me, but the Steam Deck will allow me to go downstairs and sit on the sofa and play maybe some cool indie games I've just gotten to review, or old strategy management games that I can normally only play on the PC because they're locked into this ecosystem. But, you know, if I want to play some Parkitect in bed, I can. And that's amazing. That's such a cool concept. I don't think there's anything else to say about it, really. I have one pre-ordered and I'm very, very excited to see what happens, and I wish Valve all the best. And yeah, Dead Rising on the go. Team Fortress 2 on the go. Left 4 Dead on the go. I really hope I don't eat my words. I really hope next summer, when mine finally arrives, I really hope I'm not sitting here playing clips from this video and going, well, that fucking idiot didn't think of this really obvious thing that is a flaw of the system, but I really think they're onto something with this. I really, really do. Anyway, that's me waffling on for half an hour. That's way too long. I'm going to go outside because I probably should go outside. Otherwise, I won't have made the most of the sun and I'll feel weirdly guilty about that, even though it's way too hot and it's not comfortable, but it's just how my brain works. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me what you think about the Steam Deck in the comments below. Yeah, it's cool. Cool device. Subscribe to 7 out of 10 for more indie reviews and I guess like conversations about new hardware. I guess this is just what I'm doing now. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.